we sent teams from both Beaver, Brae, and TA, 2 teams from each. And so we had Maya and Isaac representing Japan. We had Anwin and Akbar representing Bolivia, and Akbar was actually the president of the assembly, and Anwin was a committee chair. And then we have Kinley and Kate, from the Solomon Islands, and Victoria and Connor, but Connor is not here today, who represented Iran. And for those of you who don't know what Model United Nations is, it's essentially just a mock UN General Assembly that students participate in. They're assigned a country and they debate resolutions, and they also get to have some fun while at it. So here are the students. I have some pictures that we'll be showing as well. And they unfortunately didn't have much time to prepare because we just got back on Saturday night. So I might just prompt them with some questions, but if you have any specific questions, please feel free to raise your hand and ask them as well. Yes.
Tell me about the fun you had.
It was awesome.
What did you do that was fun?
The whole thing, from the public speaking just to being with people who enjoy the same thing as you, it's really incredible. And I feel like we don't have that in Kenora, like of this scale and this specific. You're surrounded by people who enjoy the same things as you and who have a future planned out similar to yours. It was really awesome.
Yeah, it was really different because Akbar and I have participated as a team for the past 2 years as well, but it was both online. So being there in person and in the dorms where you're meeting other people face to face, it was really different. Yeah,
it is
in the best possible way.
Indeed, and like with online, we noticed that we didn't really have that chance to negotiate on resolutions and represent the interests of our countries properly. In such case, we couldn't really represent the interests of the country since we were one of the chairs. But we did see a lot of negotiating going on in person, and we really saw the art of diplomacy in there.
Does one of you want to explain the 2 resolutions that were discussed at MUNA or that were debated on?
So
or one from each committee, I guess.
Sure. So there's 2 resolutions, and a member from each. So I worked on one, and Maya worked on the other, and the one I worked on was preserving the national rule of law, and then more specifically, the proliferation of weapons. So as Japan, we had proposed a resolution banning and continuing the non-nuclear proliferation treaty that was already proposed by the UN, following the same guidelines as the Chemical Weapons Convention, and transparency with all nations for all their military weapons. That was my resolution for that.
And I worked on a resolution regarding the preservation of the global climate, and then more specifically, promoting science and combating misinformation in regards to climate change. So, it was a lot of talk about like what countries can do to take action on climate and how countries can be transparent with one another when it comes to their climate targets. And this year, actually, Akbar and I were a part of the organizing committee, so we were organizing the whole thing from September, and we were in charge of choosing the resolutions for this year.
And choosing the resolution wasn't just going on Google and sample UN resolutions. It was looking at the past resolutions, looking at the UN sustainability goals, and looking at the current issues that matters the most to individual countries, and then coming together to decide on those resolutions, to word them, and to present them to our committee for approval.
How did you go about determining who represents which country?
We didn't really, as participants, they don't really get much of a choice as to what country they want to represent. It is essentially the organizing committee that assigns countries to different teams. So we want to make sure that country.
That was you two.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's chosen at random, but we do try to make sure that the biggest countries, especially like that are pertinent to the current world, are involved. So Russia, Ukraine, Iran, Afghanistan, we made sure that all of those countries were assigned, because obviously there weren't enough teams to represent every country in the world. But other than that, it's randomly assigned.
Right. And with the randomness, we have to also make sure that those countries that have been assigned to those schools before, they are not repeated again. So we would notice that countries like Chile and Belarus, they were not actually assigned to anyone in this region. They were assigned to different people from Saskatchewan and Manitoba.
So this was a model in civility, because I was gonna ask, how did Russia and Ukraine get along there?
There was some,
Russia sent out bomb threats to everybody, and they folded up the notes as paper planes, and they had the pages go incoming when they delivered them.
But for the most part, everyone tries to remain fairly civil.
Yeah.
And as chairs of the assembly, it was quite the job making sure that people are not actually threatening to invade countries and things like that. And it was quite a challenge to ensure that, because this year some of our teams from rather controversial countries were quite into the role. So
Yeah, very.
How many were there?
there were about 92 countries.
And how many people like yourself? How many?
About, sorry?
How many students?
About 184 students.
184?
Yeah.
How did the climate change? How did that go over?
Well, some of you guys can. Japan's climate targets aren't looking super great for us, to be completely honest with you. But overall, I'd say most people had some fairly good ideas, and most countries are, at least starting to move towards some progress. Can't speak for every country. You have to represent the interests of your country and how they would actually act within the UN. And so Japan's climate goals they leave a little to be desired.
Kelly, you had a question?
Yeah, just wondering if each of you can share what you got out of this. Like, what was the one thing, one takeaway for you?
Well, in the beginning, we had an opening statement, which was quite challenging, speaking in front of so many people there. So it was a good lesson, I would say. And because I was Iran, their government and their policies, I don't really agree with it. So it was pretty fun to be representing country with the values they have and kind of defending country I really don't agree with. So this was something that I got to look on the other side, and I really enjoyed that.
And for me as the president, I really learned how to keep the cool in the room and make sure that people are not just fighting each other. I really also got to learn the importance of every single voice, because some resolutions that were passed, they were passed by just 2 votes. So seeing that in action and counting those things made me realize that every voice matters.
Yeah, and because we've participated for the past few years, I think this year was really about throwing ourselves into these new leadership positions. And it was a really fun experience to be able to work behind the scenes. So while everyone was debating, we were walking around, evaluating everyone, making sure that they had the help they needed. And I think it was a new experience, but it was really fun.
And we also served on the award and nominations committee.
Yeah.
And looking at that, we had to ensure that the countries they were best prepared, but they're also being diplomatic. So finding the right countries to nominate, that was quite, the discussions.
Now, I forgot to mention, but Japan was actually awarded the Bert Friesen Award for the most prepared delegation. And last year, that award was given to Anwin and Akbar, so we are now 2 years in a row that a Kenora team has won that award.
Last year, we were also runner-ups to the Racecan Award for the most diplomatic team. And the year before, as Chile, we actually were nominated for both the Bert Friesen Award and the Racecan Award. So it is really nice knowing that all those trophies, that this region is producing some of the best leaders.
And I'm sure it's really comforting to know that your money is going towards a good cause. We're working hard for you.
Now, Kate and Kinley, this was your first time at Munich, correct?
Yeah.
So do you want to share some of the things you learned in your experience?
Yeah, so Maya and Isaac were a major help for us, and I'm very grateful that they were there. But it was definitely a new experience, one that I'm very glad and grateful to have done, so thank you. And my major takeaway from it was some friends that I made. I made some great friends because I was sitting next to Russia in our committee meetings. And of course, being the Solomon Islands, were pretty insignificant on a global scale. So it was lots of fun to be able to sit next to some new friends that I made, and I'm very glad to have met them because I'm still in contact with them now. And I definitely will be doing this next year.
I thought it was really awesome that we got to meet people who were like-minded, and especially with clubs at school, some people are only there to get something on their resume, or they're not really into it, and it's really nice to meet people who are. That is my alarm, sorry, it's quacking. I don't know what I said it for. It's nice to meet people who are there and are just as into it as you are, because it makes it more fun, so you don't have to feel like you're working for other people to make sure that your work, I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah, no, I agree with Kinley, because the first night that we were there weren't many teams, but it was Brunei and the Maldives who also showed up, who happened to be in our group. So it was a great coincidence, especially since that night I learned that our country, or the Solomon Islands, had reached zero emissions. And my argument going into it was that the Solomon Islands needed money to reach zero emissions. And since they had already done that, my research had kind of disappeared a bit. But we managed to negotiate with Brunei and the Maldives, and we created a bit of partnerships going into it. So that was a relief, and I became good friends with them too.
So
Maybe, or do you want to discuss your serious resolution that you brought to the table?
yeah, we can.
Sure.
So the concept of this is they have their assigned resolutions, the climate change and the national security, but then the teams are allowed to propose their own serious resolution, which they make it by themselves, and then it's their task to go around and get co-sponsors for these as well. So Japan brought a serious resolution.
So I mean, I'll let you explain the gist of it. It was
The idea for the resolution, through like research, I'd found out that a lot of countries have been calling for reform of the Security Council of the UN, which is a really big deal because that's changing the charter and changing the structure. And Japan had really agreed with it because they were going to be addition, so they were going to add 4 seats to the permanent members, and then in addition, add some seats to the non-permanent seat holders, and change the veto power rules. So from like the minute we got there, me and Maya were talking to people and getting people on board, and the entire time while dealing with our first resolution, we were also dealing with this, and it ended up actually passing by majority vote in the General Assembly, which was awesome. We had a lot of people really rooting for it.
It was a close call, and it was a bold resolution to propose. Yeah.
It was such a bold resolution that one of the main organizers came up to me, and he's like, so what are you going to do with this resolution? Because it's a fundamental change to the structure of the UN. And I was like, well, perhaps I could strike it down, say the assembly requires a notice to this. And just making those decisions was hard, but then I realized that Japan had negotiated with one of the organizers, and they had let it slide. So
yeah, we had to talk to somebody to let this be allowed.
Yes.
It was such a big deal.
It was, many people were talking about it, not all in favor of it, but it ended up being, it was a really good opportunity for us. It was a lot of late nights that went into working on that, and a lot of math that didn't end up making a lot of sense, and but in the end it was a really good experience. We met a lot of people working on it, and we both definitely learned a lot about like how the UN works and how one would go about making a change like that. And obviously it's a lot more complicated in real life than it is during Model United Nations, but it was a really interesting experience.
And it passed, so.
Yeah.
So what was the most difficult part of getting it passed then? What was the sticking point?
The most difficult part was the controversial countries like Russia and Belarus, because Russia especially, they hold a seat on the Security Council. So the most difficult part was keeping them not so against it that they're out there telling everyone not to agree with it, but also on the side of it, like they were never going to agree with it, ever.
Yeah.
But that was the most difficult part, was also we found some people didn't even know So we'd bring it up to somebody and they'd, well, we gotta look into it
They'd
first.
have no idea what we were
Yeah,
talking
they'd have
about.
no clue. So it was educating people as well as finding out what people's countries would agree with. And we did get majority, which was nice.
Yeah, it was very controversial, so it was just difficult gaining enough support for it to get it to pass. But we just barely managed to do it.
Two seats, I'm pretty sure. Do you remember?
You said it was two, right?
It was passed by majority. It was passed by 2 votes.
Yeah, just barely.
Like I said,
Just barely.
the importance of counting each voice and going out and speaking up. So that really connects to this. It was only had those 2 countries not spoken up,
Yeah.
it wouldn't have passed. So.
Yeah.
Do any of you have an objection if I send a picture of you to our Facebook site?
No, that's totally
okay.
fine.
Yeah.
As long as I look good.
You all look great.
And, oh, sorry, Kelly.
Kelly?
So how do you think whoever wants to answer this, how will you use what you learned? Your experience was coming back to the real world.
Well, Apper and I have actually, we had such good success on the organizing committee this year that we are joining the organizing committee for next year as well. So we'll be doing that remotely.
And we're not just joining as
university.
members, we will be joining as one of the executive members and appointing people, reviewing application and letting them into the organizing committee for 2024.
And Model UN has really allowed us to explore our passion for leadership and has aided in our skills in diplomacy and conflict resolution. And I think that we will both be pursuing a career with Rotaract when we move on. And we really just want to help whatever community we're in. And this has helped us develop those skills.
My whole life, I've never really set my mind in being a leader, but at work and at school and on the football team and on the football field, even everywhere, I've just been pushed into a leadership role without any effort on my behalf. And I will never be more thankful for this because I've never actually had to try to be a leader, and going to this and having to work at it and really try taught me a lot of really, really great skills. So I plan on pursuing a career in politics, so this was very helpful. I've never had to try, and I really had to work at it this time, and just talking to people and really putting in the footwork. It's the first time I've ever had to do that, and I will forever be appreciative of that.
It was an interesting comment you made about being pushed into leadership. And you've never done it before, but evidently there's somebody that can see those qualities in you that you can't see yourself yet.
Yeah.
And that's why you're going into those roles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I've actually, for a lot of my life, found myself in a pretty similar position to Isaac through sports and school and just everything. I have been somewhat of a leader to some people, and this has really taught me a lot. And I actually plan on, I hope to go into a career in the real United Nations eventually, after going to school for many years, likely. But yeah, this has been really valuable. I, like Anwin and Akbar, this was my 3rd year, but it was only my 1st year in person. And I really learned a lot this year, especially just getting to meet people and learning the actual structure of it when it happens in person. And I'm really grateful for this experience.
So we used to call it pen pals. Did you guys?
Oh, lots.
Put someone's
There's no pen involved.
information on your phone and that, and
They trade
are you texting
Snapchats
with that? Did that happen to everyone?
Yeah, I had made a really, so the people who were representing the delegation of Israel, he was a foreign exchange student from Germany. And of course he opposed all my ideas, Of course he opposed all my ideas because he was Israel and we were Japan. And he would refuse to accept any of them. And the whole time he was always, no, that's not right, and debating. And me and him sat in the gymnasium after the first day. I was trying to get him on board so hard. We sat in there until the tech guy shut off the lights. He was like, you guys need to go.
2 hours.
Yeah, you guys need to get out of here. And me and him were really good friends. I'm sad I'll never see him again, but it was awesome, yeah. Yeah, I gotta go see him in Germany now.
Sheila, you had a question then?
So are all of you guys grade 12 or grade
No.
11?
Just us.
The four of us are grade 12.
So there's some grade 12. So I'm just thinking of next year's delegations. So are you talking to other students in the high school, trying to get them excited about The experience
Yeah.
you just
I
had?
think we have one recruited. She'll be in grade 11 with me, and Kate will be sort of grade 10, sort of grade 11. So we have at least.
So you guys will be
three
back,
like that.
you wanna come back?
Yes.
And we've been promoting it a lot through the Interact Club as well within our school, so hopefully we'll have
Yeah.
quite a
Well,
few
once,
younger members.
once you get Beaver Brae's Interact Club going too.
Yeah, I know,
Yeah.
we don't have one.
Yeah, we're hoping to get like at least another team from Beaver Brae for next year, and we've brought Kate and Kinley up, so we're hoping that they can now, carry it on. But we've been kind of holding up Muna for the last couple of years between the two of us.
Maya actually introduced me to Muna, and so thank you for that. And so I'm definitely hoping to do that for some other people.
That's great.
Gary?
So first off, congratulations on getting the resolution passed.
Thank you.
Why did you choose such a controversial resolution?
I'm a little competitive, and I went there. I wanted to win. I was not going there to go and lose. We went there to win, and we figured the best way to do it was with some controversy, because it'll keep people talking about it. Everybody the whole time. Like countries coming up to me. So what's with this resolution? I haven't even talked to them yet. It just word spread like wildfire there. And
we wanted to get people talking, and we succeeded in getting people talking. I'd say over 2/3 of the people there were talking about our resolution all weekend, and we have people approaching us asking about it, and
we got approached to be against it. Pakistan came up to us and was like, "So, what's your opinion on this resolution? Are you for it?" We go, yes.
you guys were a little biased.
I was even approached about it, even as a student.
We wanted to get people talking. That's kind of the short answer of it. Yeah.
Lynn, you had a question?
Oh, I was just, for the Beaver Brae students, do you think there's an interest in Beaver Brae for an Interact Club?
I think it would be really beneficial, because there are a lot of people there, and I mean, I don't like, talking bad about our school, but they haven't done a great job of promoting a lot of things like this. So I feel like an Interact Club would really help put that word out there and get more people involved with Rotary and all your guys' events.
There are definitely some extracurriculars within our school that just aren't super well advertised, and I mean, I don't know how they can really go about.
Like, I found out about this because Mr. Belrose was like, "Kinley, would you be interested in this?" And it was,
And I approached Kate while I was at work. She came into where I was working, and she was a friend of my brother's, and I knew that she might be interested in it, so that's how I got Kate recruited. But
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Just one other question. So is there, for example, is there any way you could promote this within your school, what you've achieved this weekend, like on Facebook or?
I think we could definitely talk to some people, and they did announce our award this morning and all the work that we had put in.
Okay.
But me and Maya were talking about figuring out something, because it was never promoted for me either. I had Belrose had just asked
I
about
got
it.
you recruited too.
Yeah, she asked me about it. Like, no posters or anything, and it was such a great experience. It was so incredible.
Because I don't know if there's anything we could help you with the school administration or director of education.
Yeah, it's just.
Move this up the
I
chain.
mean, when there are 4 students out of a few hundred, it's a little difficult to really promote it on a big scale. But we're definitely hoping to get more people involved, because it's a really great opportunity, and I think just a lot of people don't know that it's something that our school offers. So
I think
It
that's
would have been a
something.
lot different if the football team had won the Wasp championship.
Brad, you have to go, Brad had his hand up for a question.
Just a comment. It's really refreshing to hear from the gold medal generation that you're actually competitive.
Thank you.
Winning's not everything, but losing sucks.
Yeah, it does. You gotta hate losing to win.
Yeah, I just have one other.
Well, there's a couple of things we're going to say. First of all, I don't know whether it's been announced publicly, but it's been announced to staff who your new principal at Beaver Brae is. And she was a counselor, Muna counselor years ago.
Oh, was
she'll
she?
be supporting him. The other comment I'd make is that there's been an evolution over the last 10 years. And one of the evolution that I'm very happy of is the movement of the leadership from the professor who used to be the president. He actually sat in your position.
Jerry, right?
Pardon me?
Or Dr. Khan?
Or Dr. Khan, yeah.
No, not Khan, I forget his name, but I'm glad that the leadership is moving down. And there was a debate about 10 years ago about whether or not we should not let students come back a second year or a third year. And I heard one of you say that this is your third year.
Three of us, it's our third year.
It's my second.
And within our committee, the Rotary Youth Committee, there was a large debate on that issue, and the day was carried so that you were allowed to come back. And in my opinion, that was the right decision, because each year you get a new level of knowledge about leadership. For example, your comment about the amount of pre-work you had to do, going among people and talking about them, recognizing that there are so many people that know absolutely nothing about a lot of issues. And so your leadership role is educating people who know nothing to take them up to the next level. And so each year you gain a lot more, and I'm very glad that evolution has continued.
Yeah, and like I was gonna say, even before we get there, it's months of preparation that goes into this. Like it's months of research, like learning everything you can about your country and their whole history on any of these topics. It's a lot of work goes into it. We have some long Google Docs full of research.
Yeah, like we came in with about this thick
like
sheet of paper.
Stacks of paper just filled with research.
And to even speak on the educating, like the very first night, there was a couple people from out of town, the representative from Maldives. I think they were a little intimidated to come sit with everyone and talk, and I had walked out and seen them, and they looked at me and asked me, what's one thing we should know, if we should know anything today? And I laughed and I told them, I was like, you should know the Allies. And then they were like, I'm gonna write that down. I'm gonna get on that. And then I pushed them. They really didn't want to at first, but I managed to push them out of their shells and come out and talk to Kate and Kinley, because they were in the same group.
They really ended up doing a great job too. Like, we were impressed by how much they were able to pull together, because it really seemed like they had to crack down in a night.
Yeah, they wrote their opening speech the first
the
night. Yeah, and they had to read it the next day, so.
Yeah.
No other questions, Nicole and Kelly?
Well, it's really a pleasure to be able to thank you. As a past director of youth services, I'm a strong supporter of Rotary supporting the youth, and this club is really great for doing that. I don't think there's anybody here or in our club who doesn't recognize how important it is to support you guys, and then you come back with no time to prepare and share with us in such an informative and honest way. We know that every ticket that we're selling out there, everything that we're doing that helps provide you guys with the resources to do this is worth it, and it's really inspiring. So thank you for coming back and inspiring us and making us feel like the world is, there's more possibilities. Having you guys be the future, and having the knowledge and thinking about where we're going to be, and looking at climate and looking at peace and all of that stuff. So thank you very much. What Rotary does for our speakers is that Rotary has a foundation, and we make a donation on the behalf of the people that come and present to us. So the Beaver Brae Muna team, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And as you see, some of the things that are the focus areas of Rotary are things that you would have been talking about at Model United Nations. And TA, thank you very much. Well. So thank you. You guys are amazing.
Thank all of you guys. We really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you all so much for giving us the opportunity to do this. We are so grateful, and I don't know if we can truly express how grateful we are for this opportunity just by standing here, but we really do appreciate it. So thank you all.
Yeah. And I did get one thing on the Winnipeg teams. They have bigger school, bigger city, more money. They had to pay. So thank you for that.